And so I started to check whichever exact period I was going to work on, because I've already had the general, which was an RPG mixed with strategy, and it was something that I've always wanted to develop because of how complex it could be to someone to play it and know the intricacies of how to play in combat, the tactical aspect, and how you have to think before you do something, and then you have to face the consequences of your choices. I've always found that fascinating within the gaming industry. And so what I found was there was this period of time in Europe where the entire world as we know might have not been the way it was if it was for one thing, which is in the 454 AD in France, there was this battle called the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. And in this battle, what happened was Attila the Hun grabbed some warriors from all the tribes across the empire and said, look, we're going to destroy Rome. Come with me. I'm going to be the emperor of Rome. Something like this, something crazy like this. And lots of tribesmen followed him because they thought that Attila either fought for Attila or would be destroyed by Attila. So it was almost like a menace. It was the biggest menace of the empire. And so there was this general called Flavius Aetius, which was a Roman, and he grabbed all the Roman soldiers that he could muster, and by his military excellence, he expelled Attila from France. And he didn't win the battle. It was more of a stalemate in which Attila could not go further into Europe because of this battle, which there was so much death in it, and many kings died in this battle, especially one of the kings of the main tribes in the period, which was the Visigoths. And so I'm trying to explain the thought process to lead to this, because it should be a simple question, but I'm trying to develop how I came to be to develop the game this time. And so what I thought was I'm going to make a game right after this battle, because it was one of the very, very specific time periods in history where one of the biggest empires in history was crumbling. It was being destroyed by within and from without, and from the exterior. And so all of the tribes in the outer region of the empire wanted to claim their land as their own. And the biggest challenge that they had was that the empire wouldn't let them. And I thought it would be amazing to tell the stories of these tribes and how they came to be the modern states of Europe today. That's how I came to this conclusion. There's no other games that are going to be as accurate as my game. And it's amazing because I've started in 2017, and I think 1 or 2 years later, there was this game made by Sega, which is Total War Attila.
I heard of it, yeah.
Exactly. And so I was thinking, well, damn, I was going to make a game of this time, which no one knew nothing about. And now there's a big studio doing something about it. Well, let's check it. And I talked to historians and I talked to people who were involved in the process of playing the game, developing the game. And the main complaint that they were having about the game was that it was not very accurate. There were a lot of things which did not belong in the game or were phased out centuries ago. And there are other things which didn't come until like 200 and 300 years later. There were things that were accurate, but not so much. And I was kind of glad that they didn't try to be as accurate as I'm trying to be without trying to compromise gameplay, which is a huge challenge for me because it's such a huge. I'm trying to rebuild a world which there's very little historical documents, there is very little sources to begin with. But what I tried to do before I even started coding the single line was that I was going to take 1 year to research everything. So I took 1 year to go online into website forums and to call history teachers which were specialized in something near that era. I was going to ask them about the languages, about the practices of religion and how people lived and how warfare was being conducted at that time. And it was like building a huge jigsaw puzzle. Let's use that expression. And there was this man which I met online, and I think he still is one of the moderators of Roman Army Talk, which is a forum. And he sent me this map, which with all of the modern divisions in the municipalities of Europe. And he told me, look, by basing what I've researched through all this 10 years that I've delved into the subject, here's how the tribes were connected. And there's this map in my game, in the website, which shows which tribe occupied which space. And what I did was I adapted some of the maps that he sent me to what I believe was something more accurate, or something that could bring into more gameplay review without compromising much of historical value. There's this very specific instance, for example, in Britain, the modern country of Wales, and the southern, there's a southern part, the southwestern part. There's this thing called Devon, that is these states. I think it's the state of Devon, and it used to be connected through a very thin strip of line. And when my game was being developed, I used this modern split thing, which there is this strip of land here, and then there's Wales, right? In the upper section. And in the game, I did the modern thing. And when I researched into the subject, just one of the modern, lots of examples that I could give. There was this very thin strip of line that connected both locations. And so what would be the Welsh were actually the Britons when they retreated further into the west because of the Anglo-Saxon invasions that were happening, because their king, which was Vortigern, were hiring mercenaries to help fight the Picts. But what he was trying to do actually was much more than that. He was trying to become the king of the entire Britain Isles, and he was trying to use the Saxons and the Angles as his army. And that is where King Arthur enters. And the story of King Arthur is actually not much of Arthur becoming king, which it was actually more about deposing Vortigern, which was a Roman general, which was very old at the time. But anyway, when the Saxons came, they conquered this strip of land. And from this time over, ever since the 5th century, this strip of land is no more connected towards Devon and the modern country of Wales. So I had to change that, for example, because I was going to be more accurate.
You were determined to be accurate, as possible.